Good morning, St Mary's and St Helens. I'm Mrs Lane, the Deputy Head Teacher at St Mary's Primary School, and it's great to be with you and with Mr Spence for a very special assembly today.
And yeah, good morning to you as well. So I'm Mr Spence, Executive Head Teacher over both of the schools. And today we're going to be sharing with you the first of a little special series of assemblies that we're going to be doing. And we're calling them our Brave Changemaker assemblies. And because when we're at school, we don't just want you to learn about facts and figures and things like that, but we also want our children and our staff to learn about how we can make our world a better place to live and how we can make a difference ourselves as we grow up.
There's so many ways that we can make a difference, even when we're really young. Greta Thunberg, who you probably remember us talking about at school, has been making her voice heard about climate change. She's only 16 years old, but she's made the whole world think more about the way that we look after it. She's written a book which is called No One is Too Small to Make a Difference, and we think she's an amazing inspiration to us. Even when we're really young, we can still make a difference to those around us. Maybe you've been helping your parents at home, maybe you've done some jobs or tidied up after yourself. Or maybe you've been thinking about those people not inside your home. Maybe they're lonely or missing you. Maybe you've had phone calls with them, video calls. You might have written them letters or even done pictures for them. Let's not forget that even though our schools have been closed, we've been able to make a difference to the people at this time in lots of different ways. One of the ways was our Captain Tom's Challenge. Did you know we raised £11,790 in total by working together and thinking of others? What a difference that will make to people working at Southmead Hospital.
And so during these special assemblies that we'll do every now and again over the next term, we're going to be learning about people through history who've made a difference. And today we're going to be looking at a brave changemaker who lived in America just over 50 years ago. And she made a massive difference to the lives of millions of black Americans who were treated unfairly just because of the colour of the skin. And her name is Rosa Parks.
Right now in America, because of the death of a black man called George Floyd a few weeks ago, a huge movement that you might have heard about or seen on Newsround has started called Black Lives Matter. As a result, people have been marching all around the world, like Rosa Parks did, campaigning for fair treatment from other people and from the government and the police.
So today we're going to be learning about the life of Rosa Parks, and in a moment we're going to be showing you a drama. It's about 10 minutes long. It's been made by the BBC and for children to help you find out about her life, the difference that she made to millions of people. Rosa lived 50 years ago, but the Black Lives Matter campaign is happening today. So after we've learnt about Rosa, I'm then going to introduce you to one of my friends who moved from a country, Nigeria in Africa, to England. And I thought I'd ask him about what life's like for him and what we could do in our schools to make a difference, a bit like Rosa Parks. So enjoy learning about Rosa through this video, and then Mrs Lane and I will see you a bit later on, and you'll get to meet my friend as well.
I'm going to tell you something about my life. My name is Rosa Parks. I was born in the year 1913 in the United States of America. What happened to me, the story I'm going to tell, well, it was such a surprise to me, really, but, well, you'll see what I mean. I grew up on a farm in Montgomery, Alabama. I had to help out around the farm, and every morning I picked up eggs laid by the chickens we kept that ran around our front yard. My grandfather, he lived with us too, and he liked to spend his afternoons sitting on the porch snoozing in the sun or telling me stories. Everything seemed just right with the world. It was a simple life, and I was happy. I was just 7 when I began to notice things that made me think that maybe the world wasn't quite right after all. My grandfather would take me into town with him, and what I started to see was that the fact that our skin was black and not white made a difference. I started to see that black people were kept apart from white people in all sorts of ways. At the town hall, black, or colored people as we were called, and white people had separate entrances. In the waiting room, we had to sit in separate seats. Even when the black people's seats were full, we weren't allowed to sit in the white section. At the bus stop, we had to stand in line while the white people got to sit on a bench. I found it all so confusing. I really didn't understand what possible difference the color of your skin could make. Everyone wore hats, went to work, ate lunch. I don't know. To me, it seemed we were all the same. But everyone acted like there was a difference. Like it was just the way things were. We had to drink from a separate water fountain, go to a different church, use a different public toilet. I grew up. Still, I didn't understand why the world was unjust to black people. But the government made the rules, so it seemed there was nothing we could do. Like everyone else, I went along with it. I followed the rules. I used the black people's entrance, drank from the black people's water fountain, went to the black people's church. I got a job working in a department store. Every day, I waited for the bus to go to work. When I boarded the bus, I would sit like we always had to at the back end of the bus, while the white people had a reserved section at the very front. If the white seats were full, we had to give up our seat when a white person got on, even if that meant standing up all the way. It wasn't fair, but those were the rules, and like most people, I just did what I was told and didn't make a fuss. It was December 1st, 1955. I don't know why it happened on this day. It was a day like any other. It had been a long day at work, and I was eager to get home, take off my shoes, and rub my feet. It was a day like any other. I didn't know when I boarded the bus that afternoon that I was going to do what I did. I took my seat in the row behind the white people's seats. The white rows were full when another white lady boarded the bus. I stayed put. I felt myself rooted to the spot just like a tree. Somehow, in that moment, I'd made up my mind. The white people in front of me tutted and shook their heads. I felt the black people behind me sit up a little straighter, keen to see what would happen next. The bus driver left his seat. But still, I didn't budge. Somehow, I'd made up my mind. The white people in front of me tutted and shook their heads. I felt the black people behind me lean forward to see who it was that had dared to disobey the rules. The police came, but still, I didn't budge. I'd never made a fuss before. I'd never broken any rule, let alone been arrested. But somehow, I'd made up my mind. People said afterwards that I refused to give up my seat because I was tired. True, it had been a long day and my body ached. But that's not why I refused to stand. No. The only tired I was tired of giving in. Tired of being treated differently like a second-class citizen on account of the color of my skin. Everyone else I knew was tired of it too. It was just, we didn't know what to do about it. My little act of defiance, my refusal to give in, it was a small thing to do. I just wanted, for once, to be able to sit where I sat and to not have to give up my seat to someone else just because she was white. It was a small thing to do, but it was what happened afterwards that really mattered. Without knowing it, I'd started something. That very evening, news of my tiny protest got around. People got together and called anyone they could think of. They wanted everyone to know what I had done. It was as if they'd all been waiting for a chance to do something. And my simple refusal to stand up on a bus one afternoon had given them that chance. Plans started to form for a bus boycott. The idea was that on the Monday when my case would go to court, all the black people in Montgomery should walk to work and refuse to take the bus. That way, the bus company would lose money. And that way, people would see that I wasn't the only one who was tired of giving in, tired of being treated badly. Monday, 5th of December, was the day of my court case. I was found guilty of not following the rules and fined $14, which was a lot of money in those days to someone like me. But it didn't matter. What did matter was what was going on outside. Most of Montgomery's 40,000 black workers, and some white people too, didn't take the bus to work or school. Some walked. Some shared cars, some rode bicycles. They wanted to show the world that they had all had enough. They marched through the street, and there were so many of them, it was impossible to ignore. The buses were almost empty. The protest continued long after I'd paid my fine and gone back to my job. Altogether, people stayed off the buses and walked to work for 381 days. It became a powerful symbol that we were tired of giving in. The newspapers wrote about the protest. People all over America could see what was going on. Eventually, the government had to do something. They made a new rule. Black people no longer had to sit in a separate section of the bus. We would never again have to give up our seats to someone just because they were white. Black people and white people were still kept separate in other ways, but it was a start, a step towards equality and justice. I was just an ordinary person, and I was amazed at what I'd started. I was so glad that on that day, I made up my mind and I refused to budge.
I've been joined by my really good friend DX, and DX and I have known each other for quite a long time, and I'd love to introduce him to you. So DX, do you want to tell us a little bit about you, what you do, where you're living, all those things?
Yeah, so I currently live in Coventry, where I work. I work in an energy company, working with house builders to ensure that they've got sustainable energy smart meters. So that's what I do.
Sounds important. And one of the things I thought I'd tell you about DX is that he's really fast at running. And we're going to show you a photo in a second where DX got to wear like great Team GB running gear. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? Because that sounded amazing.
I knew that would come up. Yeah, so I've always loved sprinting. Absolutely love it. I think I'm built for it. It's just one of my passions. I represented my university, and also now I live in Coventry. I run for Coventry City. And also, I did represent Team GB at the World Masters Athletics Championships 2 years ago. So I loved it. It was a blast.
That's fantastic. And DX, we've been learning today in our assembly about Rosa Parks, like her life and the difference that she made as a brave changemaker. And then we obviously know about the death of George Floyd, really sadly, in America, and then the Black Lives Matter movement. And so I just thought it would be great. I knew that you've kind of moved countries from Africa to England. And you're sure you've got some things that you could maybe say to us about things that we could do in our school too. So I guess the first thing I thought I'd ask you, I just thought I'd ask three questions. One was what was it like moving from Africa to England? When did you do that, and how's that been?
Yeah, so I like to be specific there. Nigeria, that's where I grew up, born and bred. Moved here in 2003, and I came here to study in university. So I came, it was just me, arrived at Heathrow Airport with my one suitcase, which had my whole life. Arrived at Heathrow Airport on a Sunday evening in October, got on a train to Bristol, taxi from Bristol train station to my halls of residence. The next day started out at university. Didn't have any friends, family, acquaintances, or relatives. So it was very different.
And were there some things that were great that you could remember, or things that were difficult?
Loads of good stuff, like opportunity to have a great education. It was brilliant to be able to even try new food. I remember having loads of pizza, or I remember some other good bits like the ability to do athletics, for example. And there's some challenging bits, of course. In new country, it's a bit lonely because no one understood what I said when I spoke, didn't understand other people, difficult to make friends. It was freezing cold all the time. It was dark, miserable. And, but also I remember, just being confused about everything really. And I couldn't even get on a bus, for example. I remember my first time trying to get on a bus, I was thinking, do I get a ticket from the supermarket? Do I go to a kiosk somewhere, or what? And I remember just stopping a guy on the road, a gentleman, and I said, hey, I'm trying to get on a bus, trying to explain my situation. He just put both hands up and said, I haven't got any money, and then just dashed off. I was so confused.
Wow.
What's that about?
Yeah. And we've been learning about Rosa Parks, who's obviously in America, and George Floyd was in America. But the Black Lives Matter movement has really gone around the world, hasn't it? And even in Bristol this last weekend, there were demonstrations that hit the news. Do you think this is an issue for us in England? The same thing.
Oh, absolutely, and which is why we've got a protest here. There are loads of similarities between the US experience for both Black people and white people in the US as in the UK. A lot of Black people in the UK do feel marginalized, do feel not listened to, do feel that they have a barrier and they can't actually be what they want to be. And if you think about a number of Black British people, this is where they call home, and they feel that way about. So there's nowhere else to go. So it's a very challenging time for challenging experiences which a lot of us Black people face. I also have on the other side, a number of white friends, and within the white community. And there's not a lot of understanding and awareness and appreciation of these sort of experiences which Black folks go through. So there are a lot of parallels there, and worth addressing and talking about.
Yeah, and a good opportunity for us to think about it, because obviously at school we've got We're all about learning and all about thinking about how we can change the world that we live in. So I think the last question I had was, I'd just love to get any advice that you might want to give to us as teachers or children at St Mary's and St Helens, just about what do we do to respond to this? How do we make sure our communities are really great places to be part of, no matter where we've come from, what our skin colour might be? Anything that you'd want to share with us?
Yeah, I will do. I mean, I'm not an expert in this area, of course. However, I've been in school. I've got various experiences. I would say to the teachers, your school is now an international school. I understand, pretty much everybody in your school is British. However, British means these days quite a number of different ethnicities and backgrounds and home situations. And I think it'd be amazing, when I was in international school, opportunity to just really celebrate the cool stuff about all kinds of cultures, people's fashion, people's music, their food, their way of thinking, or stories about role models who are not British, for example. Would be really good to bring that to the fore with the pupils. I would just say, don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, I'm sure you've got a few, you've got 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. They're not shy about asking questions. Don't lose that. Don't lose that at all. And you could even teach the 11-year-olds. So you don't even have to be afraid to say black, or, black people love being black. So for your black pupils, be confident in who you are. It's amazing to be black because that's what you are. So don't be afraid, ask questions, and let's get a dialogue going. Yeah,
and I was just thinking, as you were saying that, so at St Mary's, the vision is excel, enjoy, explore, be amazing. And it comes from a verse in the Bible, which is talks about the fact that everyone's been made in a unique and an amazing way. And it's about celebrating all of those things. So I think Dex, it's been great to chat to you. It's great to see you. Haven't seen Dex for a little while after he moved to Coventry. And thank you so much for your thoughts as well. And what we're going to do now is we're going to give the children a few questions that they can think about in their classrooms or at home, where they could maybe just start to talk about some of those things that you've been sharing as well. But great to see you, and love to see you soon. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.
Brilliant. Good to chat. Cheers.
Thank you, Mr. Spence. That was really, really interesting. And we've got some questions now for you to have a think about at home with your family, or if you're in school with your classmates and your teachers. So our first question for you is, what made Rosa Parks a brave change maker? Our second question is, which of our school values do you think Rosa needed to make such a difference? And our third question is, the Black Lives Matter movement has caused us all to stop and think about the way people have been treated because of their skin colour. How should we treat others who might be different and look different from ourselves in our school and in our communities? And to end our assembly, we are going to have a very, very special song. You saw this maybe in the last term when lots of our children in both schools recorded a video called Looking to the Rainbow, and it's really catchy. So I think maybe we'll try and play it a few times over the rest of this term, because it's a lovely song. It's all about hope and coming together again and being one as a community. So enjoy it, sing along, join in, and hopefully we can play it again soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye, see you soon.
Bye.